The Blazers have another new player, and it's another Phoenix Sun. An old Blazers player is finally getting a payday. There's 3 days left until the first game of the season, and with that being said, welcome into Blazers Uprise. This is going to be a quick-hitting news video, and I'm going to do a lot more of these this season. It'll cover everything from the big to the small as it pertains to your Portland Trail Blazers, and it will be a roundup of everything going on in Blazerland. Leave a like on this video if you want to see more of these, and let's start off with Wainright, who recently got cut by the Phoenix Suns, and the Blazers have claimed him off waivers. In order to make room for him on the main roster, the Blazers waived Kevin Knox, who spent last year in Portland and was a training camp invitee that a lot of people thought would make the team. Now there's a decent chance that he might end up with the Rip City Remix, which is the Blazers' new G League team, and that's what's different about this year is anyone who gets cut that was a training camp invite actually has a chance at staying attached to the organization, instead of going off and playing for one of the other G League teams or overseas. This pertains to both George Condent and Duop Reith, who are training camp invitees. Meanwhile, Justin Minaya, who ended last season with the Blazers, received an official two-way contract with the team. This year, NBA teams are allowed to have 3 two-way players, up from 2 in previous seasons. Those two-way players will be Skylar Mays, Ibu Baji, and Justin Minaya. In order to make room for Minaya, the Blazers cut John Butler Jr., who was on a two-way contract with the team starting last season. I have no idea where he ends up, but with the Blazers shoring up their big man depth and having Ibu Baji on a two-way contract still, it did make some sense to move off from John Butler for a more athletic, interesting wing prospect. Now, of course, two-way players normally don't amount to much. However, there have been organizations that have made the most out of those opportunities. For example, the Miami Heat, with guys such as Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, and Max Strus coming up from nowhere and becoming really good role players for the team. With Strus and Vincent gone, there is another wave coming in with the Miami Heat in terms of two-way prospects that could make an impact next season, most notably Orlando Robinson, who killed it in Summer League, as well as Drew Smith. So these two-way spots aren't completely meaningless. It is very hard to be as productive with them as the Miami Heat have been, but that is what all organizations should aspire to. Now, before we talk about Wainright, this video is sponsored by BetUS. There's a bunch of ways to have fun this NBA season, more than just rooting for your Portland Trail Blazers to win. Or lose when March rolls around. BetUS is a great way to do just that, and with the season starting in a couple of days, you want to get in on these preseason specials while you can, as if you use the link in the description box below, you can receive a 125% bonus. That's a great value for some season-long bets, which could be fun to keep track of all season, and you can tell us how it goes. Also, on our second channel, Blazers Uprise podcast, we have a Picks Against the Spread segment every Mondays and Thursdays, and BetUS will be providing the odds for that this season. Chat is able to go up against me, Eric, all our moderators, and hosts all season long as we pick the day's games. BetUS is secure, reliable, and has great customer service. And with that link that gives you that bonus in the description below, they're a great way to have fun this NBA season. Now, back to the video. Wainright has spent 2 seasons in the NBA. This will be his 3rd year. However, he is already 29 years of age. He's played multiple seasons overseas before joining the Phoenix Suns in 2021. At 6'6", Wainright is built like a tank. He weighs 250 pounds, and that's probably all muscle. He's a solid athlete and a physical defensive presence, and that's really where his game shines, as on the offensive side of the ball, he's close to a 33% three-point shooter, isn't somebody that's going to drive much, handle the ball much, make passes, or really do much of anything. I think the key for him long term, if he wants to carve out a role in the NBA, will be getting that three-point percentage up and becoming a true 3-and-D player in the mold of like a PJ Tucker. But until he does that, I think he's a good practice piece, and I think that's why the Blazers signed him. He's a veteran with a lot of basketball experience, even though it's not in the NBA, and he provides a certain archetype of defender for the Blazers to go up against in practice. That archetype being a perimeter defender who's extremely strong and extremely physical. I think that'll be a good challenge for Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, even Anthony Simons to have to deal with in practice, and especially on a team with a lot of youth on it who doesn't yet understand the physicality of an NBA season and NBA play. I think that is where Wainright will serve his value. Speaking of value, Zach Collins has signed a 2-year, $35 million extension with the San Antonio Spurs. The former Portland Trail Blazer, who was drafted with the 10th pick in 2017, has been thought of as a bust by a lot of Blazer fans. But since getting to San Antonio, Collins has turned his career around. In Portland, he dealt with injuries, most notably a separated shoulder and an ankle issue that he had to have surgery on 3 times. Reportedly, the first 2 surgeries weren't done too well, and that's why he needed a third one, which ultimately corrected the issue. Last season, he played in 63 games with the Spurs, averaging almost 12 points per game, over 6.5 rebounds, and almost 3 assists. Per 36, that's 18 points, 10 boards, and 4.5 dimes. He can still protect the rim, and he can still switch out and defend on the perimeter, and that makes him an extremely well-rounded big man. He's also a really intriguing two-way fit next to Victor Wembanyama, who's been taking the preseason by storm, as he can space for him, make a high-low pass to him, and then also has versatility that makes both those bigs switchable and able to guard multiple positions. The Spurs obviously saw that same value in him, locking him up to a $17.5 million contract over the next couple of seasons. Collins is going into the third and final year of a deal he signed with the Spurs in 2021, and that was an interesting deal at the time because the year before, Collins did not play a single minute. And then the Spurs went out there and gave him $7 million guaranteed in his first year. In his second year, about half of his $7 million were guaranteed, and then this season, it was a fully non-guaranteed year that the Spurs picked up because Zach Collins has been playing well for them. I thought this was a very good signing by the Spurs back in 2021 as a low-risk, potentially high-reward deal. If Collins couldn't stay healthy enough to play, the Spurs could have cut him and barely owed him anything after year 1. However, they did have him locked up through 3 years so they could see if he could improve his game and become healthier and become a staple on the team. That's exactly what he's done, and now he's getting rewarded for it, and the Spurs made a very wise investment a couple of off seasons ago. A lot of Blazer fans wanted to see Collins gone in 2021. However, the Blazers probably were the team that should have made that investment. Now Collins is getting himself to the point where you can't really consider him a bust. Sure, there's better players that were taken after him. However, there's also a couple of worse players that were taken before him. Given where he was drafted, I think the production that Zach Collins showed last season lines up with a 10th overall pick. But let me know in the comment section below, is Zach Collins still a bust? Maybe he's just a bust as a Blazer, but it's really nice to see him turn his career around and get a payday, and hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy. Now, tomorrow we will be having an episode of Blazers Uprise Live that'll be our NBA predictions for the entire season. On Tuesday, we should have a 503 for the Fans podcast, and on Wednesday, which is the first game day of the season, we should have 5 different things that we're dropping. That includes an episode of the Hoops Crush podcast. We're doing Blazers Uprise Live on Wednesday instead of Thursday, and then we'll have a pre-game video, a watch party, and a post-game show, so stay tuned for all that. If you want to catch the podcast, we have a podcast channel, link in description box below, as well as the link for BetUS, where you can get that 125% bonus, so you can have some fun with us this NBA season. With that being said, I'm out of here. I'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.